Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason. Hello? What? Oh, me? Hello, Maynard here for the Skeptic Zone, episode 306 on the 31st of August, 2014. If you're expecting Richard Saunders, well, you're in for a bit of a disappointment. Actually, no, stand up, sit down again, stand up, turn around, hold on to your hat. Why? Because I'm reading the script that Richard Saunders has sent me. Hang on. Oh, there's a comma there. So stand up, sit down, and hold on to your... Wow. Hat. Why? Because that makes for a funny sight. Something to entertain the other people on the train or bus or wherever you are. Richard is having, Richard's on the couch, under the table, and basically he's as sick of a dog. He's as sick as a dog with a cat on his lap. Oh, what's that? Here's my cat, Godzilla. Meow. Hello, Godzilla. Meow. Oh, my cat's much more talkative than Richard's. Meow. Shh, 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 Godzilla. Anyway, what's coming up on the Zone this week? Well, we kick off with an interview Richard did before the germies got too bad. Now, we're not sure if it's a virus, a microbacteria, and he's not auditioning for the Sydney Dance Company again. But he was really good last time. He almost made it. If he hadn't corked his thigh, he would have been across the line. No trouble. Anyway, before he got all the... Here's an interview he did with Evan Bernstein from the Skeptics Guide to the Universe podcast. Evan and all the SGU rogues are in Atlanta, Georgia at the moment, attending DragonCon. It was at DragonCon 6 years ago this week that the Skeptic Zone was launched. Aren't you lucky? Evan tells Richard about what's going on with the skeptical outreach at this great convention. And we'll be interested to see what Evan is dressed as, I believe. He went as every member of the Fantastic Four last time. After that, it's a grain of salt with Eran Segev, who was at the QED convention in Manchester earlier this year. This time, Eran talks to Johanna Bischof about diets and woo. That's pronounced woo. Following that, it's a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia. That's RiAus.org.au. And while we're doing the plugs here, have a listen to Maynard.com.au, where you can find some interviews about 90s music and Bunga Bunga, the show I do with Mr. Tim Ferguson of the Doug Anthony All-Stars, who are touring again at the moment, back from the 90s. That will be on this week, so check that out, maynard.com.au. Oh, of course, to round off our show after you're all scienced out, after your brains are all sort of swollen, in a good way, and to round off the show, it's Evidence Please with Jo Alabaster. What's Jo getting into this week? Underpants? Light fittings? Yeah, well, actually, it is underpants. Yes, underpants that claim to be able to shield you against electromagnetic radiation. Well, personally, I can't get enough of the stuff. Well, now I'm going to go downstairs to Richard's kitchen, steal his wallet, leave the house, and have one hell of a night on his credit card. Oh, and I think I'll probably have a few Japanese slippers while I'm doing that. While you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Was that okay? Meow.
From the wonderful city of Atlanta in Georgia, where I wish I was right now, it's Evan Bernstein from the Skeptics Guide to the Universe. Hello, Evan.
Hey, Richard and everyone. How's everyone doing?
Well, I hope everyone's doing a little bit better than me. I seem to have picked up some sort of a rotten, throaty thing, but we'll battle on nevertheless. And it's hard to believe that DragonCon is on yet again, and it's even harder to believe that I'm not there. But I was just having a chat to Derek Colanduno, and he said the first day has gone really, really well. How's things looking from your perspective?
Yeah, things here, as usual, are very good. There's always a robust crowd here. Lots of different kinds of people, and what I mean by that is people with lots of different interests, not only skepticism, but obviously science fiction, of course, and certainly plenty of other things. So it's sort of a different vibe you get at a conference like Dragon Con than you get at some of the other more parochial skeptic conferences that you and I are familiar with. So it's definitely different, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's my memories from Dragon Con. It's so crazy. So many people walking around in the most extraordinary costumes, and it gets very busy and very crowded. Is it like that this year?
I think this year more so than ever. These conventions like Dragon Con, they have Comic Con and others like it, are only growing in popularity, and the attendance numbers are always going up, up, up. And yeah, you can feel it. You definitely have a bit of a hard time or a challenge getting from one place to another, but we all manage, and everybody is civil and polite about it, and patient. We have to have some patience as well. And but it's good. It's good. A really good vibe from the crowd here.
That's what I remember. I went there 3 years running. I think it was, if I can recall, 2008, 2009, 2010. And in the 3 years I went there, it seemed to me to be getting bigger every year. And the golden rule about Dragon Con, especially when you're leaving, is that you have to time your use of the elevator very carefully. Otherwise, you just don't get in.
That's true. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, which is one of America's larger cities. But even a city like Atlanta has a hard time sort of handling the traffic of over 100,000 attendees in their downtown area. So it can get pretty tight. And like you said, the elevators and the lines for the elevators do get tight and packed. But that doesn't dampen anybody's spirits. I mean, nobody's really complaining about anything like that. Like I said, you just have to have some patience, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go.
That's absolutely true. And along the way, you can meet Chewbacca the Wookiee, or you can meet Dracula, or your favorite characters from just about any movie or any pop culture reference. I'm sure there are lots of Doctor Who's this year as well.
Oh, this year more than ever. I've seen so much Doctor Who. It's not even funny. So much costumes, even the merchandise that they're selling. They have whole booths of merchandise dedicated to simply Doctor Who and nothing else. And it definitely seems to be a very, very popular theme here. And people are loving it, enjoying it, having a great time with it.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, as they did the times that I was there. Now, tell me more about the skeptical outreach. You've been going to Dragon Con longer than I have, or you've been there more times now than I certainly did. I certainly enjoyed the skeptical panels and the skeptical shows we did at Dragon Con. How important it is for you and the Skeptics Guide to the Universe to appear at these things?
It is important. It's an extra sort of arm of outreach to an audience who might not necessarily have some exposure to us in the first place, because, like I said, there are so many people here for so many different reasons. You can't help but get some people interested in skepticism who maybe didn't even know about it to begin with. Unlike other conventions and other events we attend, where we know pretty much the crowd, for the most part, has a skeptical attitude and a skeptical worldview. But here, it's a little bit more mixed. You're not quite sure what people are thinking, because you're running into people that you don't often see at the other places. So it's very interesting. In fact, when we were having dinner just this evening, myself and the Novellas, we were speaking with some people at the adjoining table, and they didn't know about us, but we just started talking a little bit, and it turns out they're going to come to our live show tomorrow, just from us explaining to them what it was we were talking about. They had never heard of skepticism before. They had no idea. And they said it sounds really interesting, and I think we're going to see them in some of the front row seats tomorrow night. So that's the really great thing about a convention like this, is that we're making contact with people with whom we would not otherwise have that ability to contact.
I think that's a very important point, because you're right. At skeptical conventions or scientific conventions, which you and I appear at from time to time, we know our audience, and our audience know why they're there, and they know what to expect. But at Dragon Con, what I really enjoyed was the drop-in crowd, the people passing by, or the people who saw on the program there was something to do with skepticism, be it maybe the Mystery Investigators show or the SGU panel or Monsters or something like that, and would come in and maybe for the first time meet skeptics and hear the skeptical point of view and the scientific and rational point of view for mysteries and whatever. So to me, I guess it's one of the reasons I really loved Dragon Con was that approach, that reaching new minds, hearts and minds maybe.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. The more we can expand our skeptical outreach to new audiences, the better off the entire movement is. And, frankly, we think that, people in general are better off if they come to understand what it is to have a skeptical worldview about things. Some people may already have it and not sort of realize that there is this, defined movement or a group of people that, work hard in promoting these ideas, and they're just coming across these organizations for the first time at a place like Dragon Con. So like you said, Richard, it is important that we do this sort of outreach in a venue that you might not otherwise think would be a good place to promote skepticism, but very much it is.
Well, I seem to think that the skeptical track at Dragon Con is a big success every year due to the fact that they keep expanding the room. And I remember talking to a packed room at Dragon Con, which I was very pleased about. And again, looking out in the audience, I saw all sorts of people with costumes of all descriptions. I mean, unless you've been to Dragon Con or a similar event, it's hard to imagine that so many people go to so much incredible trouble to dress up as their favorite characters and walk around all day in the heat in Atlanta, and that kills me. That shows you dedication, I think.
Very much so. You have people who plan all year for this particular event, whether it's making costumes or just making arrangements with their friends, scheduling their vacation plans around it. It's a big deal to a whole lot of people, and the numbers reflect that. It just gets bigger and bigger every year. And I don't. You mentioned Derek before, and I think we should say it again, that were it not for Derek's from Skepticality, his efforts, the skeptical track would just not be what it is today. So I think a real good shout out and acknowledgement needs to go to Derek for all of his hard work and his dedication over the past 10 or more years that he's been dealing with this and making it all happen. It's a tremendous amount of work. He's a very dedicated individual, and we're very happy that he's a friend of ours, and that he calls us back each year to participate. We're more than happy to.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And again, I keep relating to the times I was there, but when I was there for those times, Derek was on hand and he put it all together, and he was he's always so nice and relaxed about things, although I'm sure underneath he's panicking quite a lot. He's that sort of fellow. And in fact, just not 20 minutes ago, as one of the panels was going on in the room, he's took the time out to message me to say how am I doing, and they miss me there. So that's a mark of the man, I think. He's a really nice guy. Agreed.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, what else, apart from obviously doing the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe at Dragon Con, which is always great fun, I know, I've been in the audience, what else at the event are you looking forward to, or do you like to do when you get away from the skeptical area?
We like to go and drop in on some of the other panels, discussions that are going on, because they talk about so many different things. They talk about art, they talk about, comics and how special effects in the movies are made, and how the writers come up with their ideas for television shows, for movies having to do with science and science fiction. Those are very informative panels, and usually with some very impressive people up there telling us about the nature of their craft. It's really a great learning experience, and I must admit, just going around and being a voyeur, looking at the costumes that the people are wearing and have put so much time and effort into is is eye candy. There's no other way to put it. It's great to see. It's so much fun. And, when you see that somebody has put in so much work in a costume and you recognize it from one of your favorite television shows or favorite movies, you just can't help but go up to them and let them know what a great job they've done. You want to, get their picture and everything. That's a big, big fun part of Dragon Con.
It really is. It really is. I remember walking around with Dr. Raichi one year at Dragon Con, just meeting famous people from television history. That was a kick too. And you never know who you're going to bump into there. I remember having a light lunch one day and Larry Hagman walked by. I mean, it was just crazy.
The late Larry Hagman of Dallas fame and I Dream of Jeannie and other shows and movies. Yes, definitely. You're exactly right, Richard. There all sorts of celebrities from movies, from television, writers, artists. They're here, and some people come back each year, so you get to see them year after year, and then other people just kind of make the rounds every few years to these events, so it becomes even more special. And you just don't know who you're going to bump into. And I know Terry Gilliam's out there somewhere this year, and I would be very honored to bump into him and let him know how much I appreciate all the work he's done over the years.
Well, that reminds me, at the same time, roughly, Larry Hagman walked by. Terry Gilliam was in the corner chatting to somebody. But that's great to spot these people. But a place like Dragon Con also gives you the opportunity to walk up and chat to people if you wanted to. Like, I had a good chat with Gil Gerard, the guy who played Buck Rogers many years ago, and just random things like that. So I wish I could be there. I'm glad you're there, and the Skeptics Guide to the Universe is there. It's very important to have a good skeptical representation of these things. Again, for the outreach, reaching people who may not normally associate or hear about the skeptics. But let's talk briefly about, of course, the big, the even better convention in Sydney at the end of the year, of course. I'll see if I can dress up for it. The Australian Skeptics National Convention, the Skeptics Guide to the Universe, will be back in Sydney after a 4-year break. We're excited. I hope you're looking forward to it as well.
Oh, we've been looking forward to this for so long, Richard, as you well know, and thank you for helping put this all together and really making this happen. Were it not for your efforts and your organization's efforts, obviously we would not have much of a presence and in Australia, but you afford us that opportunity, and it's really a fantastic thing. Australia is a wonderful country. So much we would love to see. We're going back to Sydney again, like you said. And we just can't wait. And we really do make this a big, huge family event, too. We're bringing our children with us and, some extended relatives. So it's not just, something as simple as going to a conference. It's really a large event that we've planned for quite a long time. We're getting our families involved. And frankly, we can't wait to see again the great Australian Skeptics audience that's there, because you guys are doing some great work, and your community down there is robust, lively, and a lot of fun to be with, a lot of fun to chat with. And we just can't wait. It's only a few months away. I know it's going to be here before we know it.
It will be here before we know it. And just to remind people out there, you can meet Evan and all of the Skeptics Guide to the Universe, plus all our great guests coming to the Australian Skeptics National Convention. Tickets are available at convention.skeptics.com.au with all the details of who else will be there and other activities. And I think, of course, you're going to be utilising your time in this part of the world very well. You're also going to Canberra, I understand, and then off to New Zealand.
Correct. Sydney's sort of in the middle of all those trips. It's sort of the crown jewel, the centerpiece of it all that we're basing the rest of the trips around. But you're right, Canberra and New Zealand to follow, where we've actually not been before, which is New Zealand. So we're very much looking forward to that. But obviously, there's a large following of the SGU in Australia. And we just can't wait to get back there to, reconnect with a lot of our listeners. We're just so looking forward to it.
Yes, well, the feedback we're getting, of course, is people are very happy indeed that SGU will be once again back in Sydney. But I am jealous, of course, because New Zealand is a wonderful place. You will be gobsmacked. It's just a gorgeous country, and the people are so welcoming and friendly over there. And the New Zealand Skeptics are a very active group, a very fine group of people. I think you're in for a really good time, Evan, and it's so great that you can share this with people that you're going to meet along the way, and especially here in Sydney, of course. Convention.skeptics.com.au is the place to go to. Buy your tickets and you can meet Evan and the rest of the Skeptics Guide to the Universe. Well, Evan, I know it's late in Atlanta. I know you've had a big day because every day at Dragon Con is a big day. What's on the agenda tomorrow?
Tomorrow's a big day because we'll be doing our live Skeptics Guide to the Universe show in front of a packed house. It's usually a standing room only crowd, which is very exciting. And as you know, we've talked among ourselves as far as, you know, some of our favorite episodes that we've done over the years. We're, you know, about 480 episodes into our SGU careers here. Yeah. And really some of our most fun and liveliest audiences have occurred at the Dragon Con venue. So I don't think tomorrow's going to be any different in that regard. It's going to be a lot of fun, interactive, and just, you know, so many things about science and science fiction to play off of here with the Dragon Con theme. It just makes for a special event. So that's what we're looking forward to. Also, Bob's going to be marching in the parade tomorrow morning, and I think Rebecca is as well. So each year at Dragon Con on Saturday morning, there's a parade in which the people who do dress up in particular costumes get to go out there and, you know, parade out for everyone. They show off their best wares and their best costumes, and I'm looking forward to being out there rooting Bob on, rooting Rebecca on as well.
I wish I could see that. I really do. I look forward to the photographs. I look forward to November. I look forward to greeting you all, the whole Skeptics Guide to the Universe gang, back into Sydney. Very exciting. But Evan, thank you so much for taking time out. Go to bed, get some sleep, and we'll chat soon.
Will do, Richard. Thanks a lot.
Did you see that UFO sighting that made the news? What did that latest study about alternative treatments really say? Is this photo making the rounds real or a hoax? Doubtful News is a unique website featuring news about pseudoscience, the paranormal, anomalies, and questionable claims framed with a skeptical view. Come visit doubtfulnews.com every day for news about cryptozoology, conspiracies, shams, scams, and more. Follow us on Twitter at Doubtful News. Critical thinking is essential in assessing today's news. Doubtful News helps you decide, can you really believe this stuff?
Grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now, grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
So, I'm here at Skeptic Camp in Manchester, the Palace Hotel, and I'm sitting here with Johanna Bischof, who is a PhD student in cell biology. And she gave a very interesting talk today at Skeptic Camp. What was the talk about, Johanna?
So I was talking about dieting and all the woo that is connected with various types of diet, especially with the alkaline ash diet.
What is the alkaline ash diet?
So that's a diet that proposed to say that, well, if your body becomes acidic, then this makes you ill. And so you should eat food that are alkaline, and they'll make you healthy. But actually, in fact, that's not true, because you can't change your body's pH level by what you eat. So it's actually all nonsense, and there's a lot of good scientific research that shows you that there's no relation between the food you eat and certain illnesses, for example, like osteoporosis or cancer. So you can't affect these by eating alkaline food or, any other food.
So what does affect your blood acidity level?
Well, mainly your body is working very hard to keep it stable, and it has a lot of buffering systems that keep it like this. And for example, your lungs work really hard to expel CO2, which is an important buffer, and your kidneys keep the pH level stable. But if you get really seriously ill, then your blood's pH changes. So if you get serious diabetes, or if you can't really breathe properly anymore because your muscles are very weak, and these sort of things, then if you have a chronic illness, then this can change your pH level, and you get something that's called acidosis, where your blood turns more acidic. And this will lead to death really quickly. So if your blood level, pH level drops below the 7.34, you have only a few hours to get it back up, and otherwise you just die.
Okay, and you can't change your blood acidity level.
Well, no, not with food. But like, if you're really serious or ill, the doctors will give you some buffering solution through in like an IV.
Yeah,
to get the blood pH level back to the normal level. But through food, no.
Okay, so. But why? So, do you think it's just general quackery, or is there any particular reason why people go for this kind of diet?
Well, I think it's part of it is general quackery, but in general, it's something where you're told you can measure your body fluids, and that's something that people really like to do. So what the people who promote the alkaline ash diet tell you is that you're supposed to measure the pH value of your urine, and this you can really affect a lot by what you eat, because the urine pH is like a measurement of how hard your body has to work to keep the pH of your blood stable. So then if you eat alkaline food, your urine will be more alkaline, and you get these pH measurement strips, this measurement paper, and you put it in your urine and it changes color. And this is a very quick output, and I think people really like this. And another point is that if you're healthy and you're not betting on this diet curing you of any illness, it'll actually be good for you probably, because it tells you should eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and not so much processed food, less sugar, drink more water, which is, in general quite good advice.
Good dietary advice.
And, be physically active. This is the stuff that, everybody would tell you how to live healthily.
We have one of the people on the podcast, Stefan. He's developed a new diet that's called the Eat Less, Exercise More diet.
Oh yeah, very creative.
Yeah. So just wanted to ask you about skepticism. So first of all, is this your first QED?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And you're from Heidelberg.
Exactly.
Right? So is that you go to uni there, but
yeah.
Is that where you also live?
Yeah, I lived there, but I studied in the UK, so I'm familiar with the UK skepticism scene, and this is why I really wanted to come here.
The first QED, fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it's also my first, so I'm very, very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's going to be great.
I travelled a lot longer.
Oh, yes, yes.
So are you an active skeptic in general, or is this just a foray into skepticism?
Well, no. I at the university in the UK, I attended at Bath University. I actually co-founded a skepticism group, and now I mainly blog, because in Heidelberg we don't really have an active skeptic scene, and I don't have so much time to set one up, and I'm not planning on staying there for a long time.
I see. Okay.
So, yeah.
So what do you think so far? So you've arrived today for skepticism?
I arrived yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what do you think so far?
Oh yeah, it's been great. There's so many interesting talks. It's really impressive. I think I like the Skeptic Camp concept, because it's so broad, and people talk about the stuff they're really interested in. Okay. So people have real passion, and it's very broad topics as well, because the main QED is its talk sounds super interesting. I'm really looking forward to it, but it's very a lot of classical skepticism, I'd say, in many areas.
Is there anything in particular in the next 2 days in the program? Is something in particular that you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm a really big fan of the whole magic and skepticism thing. That I like this at the conferences, because it's just so fun to understand how you can trick people with using their innate physical responses. And I'm really looking forward to the talk from Nathan Phelps, because I think that's just going to be an amazing story to just hear this thing, how this all worked out.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And your talk was really fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy the next 2 days.
Oh, yeah, I definitely will. Thanks.
Grain of salt now. A grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Hey, this is Jay Novella from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast. Did you know that there are thousands of skeptical reports, interviews, and investigations going back to 1981, free to download? Just visit www.skeptics.com.au. Click the publications link and enjoy almost every back issue of The Skeptic, the journal from Australian skeptics. You can also subscribe online and get the latest digital or hard copy of this, the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. That's www.skeptics.com.au, or just Google Australian Skeptics.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. Every time there's a big sporting competition, we stare in wonderment at the athletes breaking records. But is there actually a limit to how fast humans can go? Usain Bolt is the fastest human ever recorded in a race, covering 100 metres in a little over 9.5 seconds. That gives him an average speed of around 37 kilometres an hour. You may have thought that we might be reaching a limit of human speed, as our bodies may not be able to take any higher impact forces through our legs. But research found that hopping on one leg increased these forces by 30% more than sprinting, which goes to show our bodies can take more. Instead, researchers think that our speed is limited by how fast our muscles can contract and exert force during the extremely small amount of time our foot is on the ground, which is less than 1/10 of a second. During that short time, the muscle needs to exert as much force as it can to propel someone forward. Looking at human physiology, they estimate humans might be capable of running over 60 kilometres an hour. Well, can humans really run 25 k's an hour faster than the current world record? Well, humans are thought to have already run faster than Bolt. Fossilised footprints found in Australia show an ancient Indigenous man running. When they were measured, it was calculated that he was running at around 37 kilometres an hour. So what? That's the same speed as Bolt. But keep in mind, this man was probably running through mud, if not water. Give him modern shoes and a hard surface, and it's likely he would have run around 45 k's an hour. Incredibly, in the same group of footprints was a one-legged man hopping at over 20 kilometres an hour. Try doing that. That's fast, but not as fast as our 4 fast facts. Usain Bolt's power output during a sprint is around 3.5 horsepower. 92% of Bolt's power is used to overcome aerodynamic drag. Only 8% is responsible for his speed. One characteristic of sprinters is short tendons and long toes, which are thought to improve the effect of the calf muscles. And swinging your arms when you run reduces energy expenditure by up to 13% compared to holding them still. That's it for this week in science. For more information on the limits of human speed, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Ben Lewis, and we'll catch you next week.
Ad hominem, begging the question, factoid propagation, false analogy, false cause, false dichotomy, gibberish, immunised hypothesis, moral equivalence, poisoning the well, simple-minded certitude, stacking the deck, and WTF are just some of the fallacies we provide real-life examples of in Hunting Humbug 101, a podcast about bad arguments. Check it out at www.skepticsfieldguide.net.
What we want is some more evidence, please. Here's Jo Alabaster.
Hello, this is Jo Alabaster. This week, a follow-up report on the underwear that claimed to offer protection against allegedly harmful electromagnetic radiation. Back in May this year, in episode 290, I brought you a story on an Indiegogo campaign and its subsequent media coverage for Wireless Armour, underpants made of fabric which contained a silver mesh, which was claimed to protect men's testicles from radiation from mobile devices such as smartphones and laptops by behaving as a Faraday cage. This story was also featured in the Skeptic magazine. Subsequent to my report, a complaint was lodged with US-based crowdfunding platform Indiegogo. Unfortunately, Indiegogo's trust and safety team didn't have a problem with facilitating fundraising for a non-evidence-based product, stating that, quote, Indiegogo is an equal opportunity platform. We let our users decide whether they want to contribute and support the campaign after performing their own due diligence on the company, campaign owner, and its cause, end quote. As such, I'd recommend that anybody looking at supporting an Indiegogo campaign practice due diligence. Another complaint was lodged, this time with the Advertising Standards Association, the ASA, in the UK, where the founder of Wireless Armour, Joseph Perkins, resides. As a result of this complaint, the ASA investigated 2 claims made by Wireless Armour. 1. Regarding the link between electromagnetic EM radiation and infertility in men, and 2. That the product could protect a user from EM. In response to point 1, Wireless Armour Limited provided brief summaries of 8 studies and 3 full papers, which they believed demonstrated that mobile phone radiation had a negative impact on male fertility. These were reviewed by the ASA. Their assessment is as follows. Quote, the ASA reviewed only those papers supplied in full, as we considered the summaries of the other studies did not provide sufficient detail regarding the subjects and methodology used to ascertain whether they had been conducted robustly. We noted that the first paper studied the impact of EM from a mobile phone only when it was emitting a Bluetooth signal for an hour on in vitro human sperm. We understood that the study involved samples collected from 32 males, which were exposed to EM from a phone positioned 2.5 centimetres away to mimic the close proximity of the testes to a cell phone in a trouser pocket. We noted that the paper concluded that mobile phone radiation led to a decrease in the motility and viability of the sperm, but that because male reproductive organs were separated by multiple tissue layers, it was not possible to extrapolate the effects seen under in vitro conditions to real-life conditions without further research. The second study focused on the impact of EM from mobile phone on male rat sperm in vivo. The authors concluded that the EM resulted in low sperm motility. We considered, however, that a paper focused on the impact of mobile phone radiation on rats did not provide adequate evidence that the same impact would be experienced by humans. In particular, we noted that another of the papers provided stated that it was, quote, impractical to compare a rat model to humans because of its small testicular size, non-pendulous scrotum, and the fact that its testes can migrate between the abdomen and the scrotum in the inguinal canal, end quote. The third paper explored the correlation, if any, between infertility and mobile phone usage. The study involved 361 men who were undergoing infertility evaluation and who were divided into 4 groups according to their active mobile phone usage. Samples of the men's sperm were collected and analysed, and the results collected appeared to show an inverse correlation between mobile phone use and sperm count, motility, viability, and normal morphology. We noted, however, the authors acknowledged that the study was limited as it had not taken into account relevant confounding factors such as the occupational history of the subjects and their EM exposure from other sources such as radio towers, PDAs, Bluetooth devices, computers and so forth. The study also relied on the subjects' self-perceived history as their mobile phone usage was not validated and did not consider the effects of mobile phones when in their standby position. We also noted that the paper was unable to conclude whether the perceived negative impact was the result of EM emitted from the phone or of the temperature of the testes increasing, or both. We therefore considered that none of the papers that had been provided demonstrated that mobile phone radiation had a proven negative impact on human male fertility, and concluded that the claims asserting a link between the two were misleading. On that point, the ad breached CAP Code Edition 12, Rules 3.1, Misleading Advertising, 3.7, Substantiation, and 12.1, Medicines, Medical Devices, Health-Related Products, and Beauty Products. End quote. Responding to point 2, that the product could protect a user from EM, Wireless Armour provided a test report from a third party, showing the results achieved when the fabric utilised by the product was tested for electromagnetic shielding. They said the report showed that the fabric was able to shield a high degree of EM. Wireless Armour also explained that although the product had openings to allow a consumer to wear it, it was only when worn that the product approximated a Faraday cage, as the holes were filled with a wearer's body. As human flesh is not a good conductor of EM, it would dissipate the energy. The ASA's assessment? Quote, notwithstanding our assessment of point 1 above, we reviewed the test report provided to see whether the product was able to shield wearers from EM. We noted, however, that the report referred to a sample of the fabric that was used to construct the product and not to the product when assembled into pants and worn by consumers. We therefore considered that the evidence provided was not sufficient to show that the product, when utilised by consumers, was able to prevent EM reaching the genitals. In the absence of any such evidence, we concluded that the claims were misleading. On that point, the ad breached CAP Code Edition 12 Rules 3.1, misleading advertising, 3.7, substantiation, and 12.1, medicines, medical devices, health-related products, and beauty products. End quote. And here's the ASA's ruling. Quote, action. The ad must not appear again in its current form. We told Wireless Armour Limited to ensure that they had adequate evidence to substantiate their efficacy claims in their marketing in future. End quote. You know, I think this is fantastic, that a thorough investigation into some shonky-sounding advertising and a subsequent ruling prohibiting an advertiser from continuing to make misleading claims can be the result of one person writing a letter. If you see something questionable being advertised, go for it. Your letter could have an effect. The ACCC are your go-to guys if you're in Australia. There's actually been some media coverage on the ASA's ruling on Wireless Armour. I'll provide some links to news stories on my blog at evidenceplease.net, and also a link to the ASA's ruling itself and to Wireless Armour's public statement following the ban on their advertising. Wireless Armour themselves have retained over £16,000 raised via their Indiegogo campaign and are still accepting pre-orders for their underwear range. Currently, not a lot can be done about that, but hopefully the ASA's investigation, the ban on advertising, and the media coverage surrounding the ruling will detract somewhat from the perceived credibility of this product. Before I go this week, I'd like to give a shout-out to the Science on Top podcast, the Australian podcast about science, health, and technology news. They were kind enough to invite me to join their panel as a guest last week, and I had a fantastic time chatting with Ed, Lucas, and Penny. Thanks for having me on. Science on Top can be found at scienceontop.com. It's a fun show and a great way to stay on top of some of the latest research and discoveries in the world of science.
Thanks again for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Wow, what a show. That was packed. Poor old Richard having to edit all this together when he's sick. Hopefully he'll be all better next week. But is he sick? Or is he just plain lazy? You can find out in meeting myself and me and a few other people this Thursday night in Sydney is Sydney Skeptics in the pub. The details are at meetup.com/ostskeptics. That's meetup.com/ostskeptics. This is Maynard signing off. That's the noise I make when I sign off. Meow.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.